What is going on, everyone? Yvonne from Pair Recruiting here. Now let's be real. Hiring overseas used to be expensive, risky, and just complicated. But the world has changed. So if you guys are currently in the spot where you're trying to grow your business, but without paying the Silicon Valley prices, Poland should definitely be on your radar. And trust me, I'm definitely not saying this because I'm 10% Polish. So in this guide, we're going to walk you guys through exactly what makes Poland stand out when it comes to remote hiring, what type of mistakes a lot of companies make when they try to go global, and how to do it right. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Now, first things first, why are companies hiring from Poland left and right? Essentially, there are going to be a couple strong reasons behind that logic. Now, the first and the very core reason behind it is a highly educated talent. Majority of folks in Poland choose to attend university and they major in different fields like STEM, design, or business. And even though going to college is definitely not everything, it gives you a huge leg up when it comes to sharpening your skills. Now, the second reason why hiring in Poland is going to be extremely popular, and that's going to be because a lot of people speak English. And this is going to be extremely important when it comes to areas like tech, customer support, because you need to be chatting with people and also communicating with your teammates. Because look, there's nothing worse out there than you having a great idea and not being able to explain it to your teammate, and then vice versa. Now, the third core reason is that the area is just extremely affordable. You're getting pretty top level talent, but without paying the US or the Western Europe prices. And for the same budget, you can afford a salary of 2 people instead of just 1. And because Poland is in Europe, the time zone differences are not going to be too bad. So whether you're thinking of hiring an assistant, software engineer, or designer, Poland has many different areas of talent, so you can't really go wrong with it. Now, when it comes to actually making that hire, there is going to be more than one way to do so. So let's go ahead and talk through 3 of the most popular ways. Each way does have its own pros and cons, so let's go ahead and discuss them to see which one fits you guys the most. Now, the first one, and it's probably going to be the easiest, but it's Now, this is going to be pretty straightforward. First, you'll sign a freelance contract, then you'll agree on terms of payment, and they'll just go ahead and invoice you every single month. Now, when it comes to the pros behind this method, the one that sticks out to me the most is the fact that you will not need to set up your company in Poland. And what I mean by this is sometimes when it comes to benefits and tax regulations, you'll need to set up an actual entity in Poland. But if you make a hire via the contractor route, you don't have to worry about that. This will give flexibility on both sides, and it'll be pretty quick to get started. Now, let's go ahead and talk about some of the cons when it comes to the contractor route. And it's going to be the fact that you're going to be responsible for legal compliance. Depending on your experience, this could create a couple of headaches, but later in this guide, we're going to discuss some methods where you can avoid this. And for the second con, and this is not going to be just specific for Poland, but you may have higher churn when it comes to contract workers. It's kind of in the name, but it's going to be a contract, so people are going to have less stability, and most folks usually prefer the full-time employment. So just be ready for higher churn rates because you don't want to be in a pickle where you may really need a person in that moment, but you just don't have anyone. And if you treat them like an employee, you may get flagged for misclassification. Essentially, what this means is that a contractor cannot resemble a full-time employee very closely because that way you'll have to pay taxes and benefits. With this in mind, I would keep a gap between full-time employees and contractors, and that way those two are not going to mix. Tools like Deal, Remote, or Oyster can go ahead and help you guys set up contracts and payments. However, it is still your responsibility to make sure that everything is set up according to plan. Now, the second way that we can make a remote hire in Poland is going to be through employer of record, or EOR for short. Essentially, the way it works is that another company is going to hire that employer on your guys' behalf, and they're going to handle all the legal stuff. That way, you don't need to worry about taxes, compliance, or certain laws. You just have to worry about the work. Now, the biggest pro when it comes to this method is the fact that you're not going to have any issues when it comes to compliance with the Polish law. And in addition to that, because you are doing it through another company, you actually still don't need to register any type of entity in Poland. And that way, your entire onboarding process and employee retention is going to be a lot better just because you're doing it in a most compliant way. And honestly, the only con behind this is the fact that it's going to be a tad bit more expensive. However, it can save you a lot of headaches. So if you're trying to hire someone full-time, but you don't want to go through all the legal problems, an EOR may be your best bet. And the third way that we're going to discuss here, and it's arguably going to be the most complicated, which is going to be setting up a Polish entity. In order to execute this method, we need to find an attorney and accountant, and that way we can register you guys' business in Poland. And then from there, you can hire employees directly, giving you guys full control. And if you're trying to build a larger team, this can give you a stronger local presence and just a more powerful team as a whole. And when it comes to the cons behind this method, it's pretty straightforward because it's going to be kind of pricey and it's going to take a while. So if I was in your guys' shoes, I would only do this method if you're trying to set up a local office or you're trying to make a lot of hires out of Poland. Now let's go ahead and pause for a second. second. If you guys are currently watching this video and you're sitting there and thinking, man, this all sounds great, but I just don't have time for this, that's exactly where Paired comes in. We help companies just like yours find top level talent from Poland and all over the globe. So whether you're looking for someone to handle your marketing efforts, join your guys' engineering team, or handle your operations, we already have a pool of pre-vetted professionals. We'll match you with the right person, get the paperwork started, and plug them straight into your guys' business. You focus on growth, and we will handle the details. If this sounds like something you need, check out the link down below in the description. Now let's keep going. Poland has a lot of labor regulations, and there are going to be a couple things that we need to do in order to stay compliant. First and foremost, we always need to have a written contract, and this applies to everybody, whether you're hiring a freelancer or a full-time employee. In that contract, make sure to go over responsibilities, pay, and how to end the contract. And I know that I mentioned this before, but something to keep in mind is the fact that you cannot treat freelancers like full-time employees. So providing things like a company laptop, setting certain hours, and just going really in depth on certain responsibilities, right? I'll be really careful with it. Because if you have a full-time employee, you need to do it through an EOR or a Polish entity. And it cannot be done through a freelancer contract. And trust me, the last thing that you want is any sort of legal trouble. Because misclassification can become a huge concern, and that could be especially true if the way that the employee is working and the responsibilities follow the full-time schedule. So all I'm saying is be wary of it just in case. And the big reason behind it is when it comes to benefits and tax laws, they are going to be Poland specific, so I'll just make sure that you guys follow the law. And as I mentioned before, as you guys are setting up payment systems like Deel, for example, it can do a lot of things that you guys need to do. However, I would just double check it to make sure that everything checks out. And paying people in Poland is going to be most working professionals prefer Polish zloty, however, the US dollar and euros are also going to be acceptable. There are a lot of platforms out there that can make the cross-border payments pretty easy, and those can be Deel, Wise, or Payoneer. And keep in mind that monthly pay is going to be standard. However, some contractors may invoice bi-weekly as well. Now, if you've ever hired in the US, Latin America, or Asia, you may notice that hiring in Poland is a tad bit different. It's part of the European Union, and it has pretty strict labor protections, so you need to do everything by the book. So if I was in your guys' shoes, here's what I would do to make sure that I'm doing everything correctly. So first things first, figure out whether you guys want to hire a contractor or a full-time employee. And depending on that, you can set up an EOR, an entity, or just a contractor agreement. Make sure that your guys' contract is going to be bulletproof. Everything needs to be listed there, and it needs to be nice and clean. Ideally, I would have two versions, one in English and one in Polish. Step number 3, really understand the legal requirements. In Europe, there are a lot of different employee benefits that you need to be wary of, like maternity leave, sick leave, or even vacation. So keep that in mind, because you can't randomly just end contracts like you can in some other countries. And the last thing that I would double down on is to make sure that your guys' payroll and taxes are going to be streamlined. Look, when it comes to this specific category, you guys don't really have an excuse. There's a ton of platforms out there that do a lot of the heavy lifting for you, and it makes it really straightforward. So if I was in your guys' shoes, I would 100% get on one of those platforms or utilize an experienced partner, and that can make all the difference. Because hiring in Poland is not hard. It just takes a little bit more structure. And if you do it right, you'll get long-term and high-quality teammates who are going to be fully invested in your guys' success. Now, we've talked about all of the requirements, so where do we even... If you're going to do the research yourself, here are some of the platforms I would highly recommend. Just Join IT is going to be the best place for you guys when it comes to tech and IT talent. No Fluff Jobs can give you guys an idea into the market by providing transparent job listings with salary ranges. And if you don't have the technical engineer background and you're more skilled in the business and marketing fields, I would also check out Rocket Jobs. And I wanted to save the best for last, so also check out Perhuj.pl, and that's one of the largest job boards in Poland. And if you want to keep it simple, you can also utilize LinkedIn or Upwork as well. However, keep in mind that if you don't want to sort through hundreds of profiles by yourself, Paired can handle it for you. So final verdict, is hiring in Poland worth it? Absolutely. You get access to top level talent who has really strong English skills and a tremendous work ethic. And the best part is that you can scale your team without breaking the bank or opening up a physical office in Poland. And now, with so many platforms, EOR services, and partners like Paired, it's never all of the factors that we discussed can make the whole process a lot easier for you guys while reducing your headache. And if you want more of a hands-on approach, here at Paired, we've helped companies find all sorts of roles, ranging from design to engineering to even marketing. And the best part is that it can all be done without stress. We handle the sourcing, vetting, paperwork, and compliance, and that way you don't have to. So if you want a partner that knows the Polish market and that can help you build the right team from day one, check out the link down below in the description. And if this guide helped, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, or drop a comment if you guys have any questions. See you guys in the next one.